Check it out. Thursdays, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, noon Eastern. A healthy dose of Jersey Girl wisdom. Live with Rev Jersey Girl. Sponsored by New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
I'm here already. Good morning. Good afternoon. I was used to a longer lead-in. Welcome to Jersey Girl Wisdom and Rev Jersey Girl. And I'm very excited to be here with you today. I was just having a conversation with Reverend Robert and admitted to him that for a few weeks I've been under a bit of a fog. And today I feel like I'm really back for the first time in a bit. And I think there's just so many elements of my life right now that have been just so many things going on. It's been really difficult to be the me that I want to be, but I feel back and awake. And we have some noise in the background. I'm outside and there's a truck passing by, so hopefully you can hear me well enough anyway. So today I want to talk to you about a subject that matters to me, and it's conscious leadership. And it is something, let me give you a little point of reference. I'm a Jersey girl. Number one, I'm a Jersey girl. Born and raised, not raised with education, not raised with any amount of money. Not that has anything to do with being New Jersey, but that's the kind of Jersey girl I am, or was. And so what happens is when you aren't given a lot, or when you don't start with a lot, what happens is, for me, is that I'm very sensitive to a very broad audience of people. I care deeply. I care deeply about many people. My goal in life with who I am, having nothing to do with my titles, having nothing to do with the roles that I play, nothing at all. My goal in life is to have an impact, is to have a very conscious impact on the world. And there are many ways that we can do this. One of the ways is for me to be in conscious leadership. Now, I admit to you that back at the beginning of COVID, I was this close from retiring from my community. Planes overhead, excuse me, trucks going by. I guess that's what happens when you try to uh, have a show from outside. Excuse me. And what happened was, when I realized that COVID wasn't going away anytime real soon, I decided to hang out. So I am on. You're just going to have to excuse me. You're just going to have to love me and excuse me today, because I'm about to cough. I want to silence myself for a minute. Talk about being human. So anyway, so I was going to leave, and then when COVID hit, excuse me, I decided that I couldn't. Currently, I'm working part-time for my CSL North Jersey organization, and I love them dearly. And the truth is, it was the right decision to be part-time, because the fact remains, with being virtual yet, because we had given up our community, with being virtual, the finances changed, and it's, everything is in flux. My world is in flux. What's not in flux is how I show up, though, how I treat others, my leadership style. And what I find when I'm out in the world and engaging people is that with if I go into a grocery store and people in the grocery store, the checkout people, a person that's well trained makes all the difference in the world for that company. A person who's poorly trained makes a difference too, but not a good difference. If it was up to me, I would pour time and energy into lifting, training, encouraging, and empowering all employees, even minimum wage employees. Because when we can take someone who's on minimum, who works for minimum wage, but treat them as an incredibly valued person, they are going to do more for themselves. The company is going to do more for that employee, and the employee is going to do more for the company. And as you lift someone, and as we lift someone through our conscious leadership, then what happens is there's improvement and increase everywhere. To me, conscious leadership means me being aware of the whole being that I'm trying to influence. So whether it's a profit or a nonprofit organization, as a leader, if you are a manager, a leader, a store owner, a minister, if you're in charge of a teaching chapter, if you are a CEO of a large company, to be conscious is to hold the beings under you in this sacred way. And when we hold somebody, excuse me, when we hold somebody in a sacred way, we are going to increase or support them in increasing their life force, in increasing their life expression. I want to be careful where I go here. For me, if you're conscious and you're a leader, you're always going to practice kindness, which sounds so wimpy. But kindness is like, like the Zen or the Tao talk about water. Water doesn't seem like much of a force, but give it time. Water carves its way through rock. Water is more powerful because of its patience and its fluidity than other forces in many ways. Kindness, especially from the top, especially from a very conscious place, is powerful in that way. It has a kind of a drip effect. When you are practicing kindness with employees or with volunteers, you are having an impact on their being, on their soul, and on their heart. I know some incredibly amazing people who still in this world, as full-fledged, accomplished adults, still think that they need the approval of others. And why is that? Because most of us were not reared to experience or recognize our fullness. We had to have that revealed to us. We were born into a world that presented as duality automatically. We it and maybe not, well, let me not hypothetical. We were born into a world where right and wrong were there, where black and white were there, and I'm not talking about racism at this point. I'm talking about the radical differences and the ways that we measure ourselves against others and the way people measure themselves against others. The way we were set up in a school system where if you have the best memory and you can remember the most amount of facts and you can get the best grades, you were something. But everyone listening here, you and I both know that there are brilliant people who were not brilliant students. And we know people who were brilliant students who have gone on to succeed. It's not, and again, I don't want to start striking or creating some great categories of people that's ridiculous. But the way we have come to measure humans, the way we've come to measure students, the way we have come to measure our children, and that we have promoted domestication with them, has created us looking for something outside of ourselves to remind us that we're okay. And this goes on for a long time until we reach that tipping point where we say, oh, I'm enough. Oh, I'm enough. And the layers go deeper. And you hang out with that for a while. And then it comes back again. Oh, I am enough. If you haven't gotten to that place of recognizing excuse me, your enoughness yet, if you haven't gotten to the place yet of recognizing that only one person, one element can ever ordain you, then there's some work. There's an invitation to clear your consciousness. And that one place, that one element, it's spirit, it's God. Only God can ordain you. And so for those of us who have said that we want to be leaders, right? And we might not always think of it that way. Oh, plane overhead. Let me let that plane pass. I love being outside. I don't want to put my headphones on if I don't have to. I remember as a little girl, all my nephews and nieces who were of similar age, because I was born the last of 7, they always called me bossy. I was so bossy. And I want to tell you, at the beautiful age of 64, I'm very clear that bossiness is not bossiness, it's leadership. And you might criticize leaders, and it's easy for someone who's not the leader to create the distance also, and to create criticism. But being a leader is not a simple thing, because it says that you want to stand aside. You want to hold an idea as important. You say you've been given a vision for something, whether it's a company or a product or a service or a song, and you want to take that and you want to deliver it to the world. In order to do that, you're also willing to take responsibility. And that is critical. It is absolutely critical. And so to be in conscious leadership says, I have a high idea, which I share the idea, I share the vision with the people of my organization, which right now is both Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey and my Planned Happiness Institute, 501c3 that I've created with my husband. And so I look and I say, oh, I see what's possible here. Now, my job, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I'm concerned for conscious leaders, is to get a picture, that idea so crisp and so clear that you just keep moving along in the direction to serve that idea, which was very likely ordained, was very likely delivered to you by the one where all brilliant, bold, and amazing ideas come from. And then as you stay focused, as I stay focused on that vision, then others will come along. Now, it's important though when they come along that we do everything we can to turn to those other individuals and lift them. It's really important. One of the things that I've read numerous books on leadership and on well, business leadership mostly over the years, and and I always say this with, tongue in cheek. The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is still hands down one of the most important one of the most important books I think that I was ever forced to read. And my beloved now friend and ministerial teacher, the Reverend Frankie Timmers, she assigned that book to me, and it was dry. It was so dry the way it was written, and I had to do a presentation. I had to take that book and do a half-hour presentation. You can't do that book in a half hour. And I remember not liking it, and yet here it is 22 years later, and I'm telling you that I still remember and use the lessons from that book. Maybe more. I make reference to many of them, maybe more than any other book. Um, Brene Brown's recent, not so recent now, a book, Dare to Lead. Brilliant, brilliant. And I'm not going to remember the authors of this next book. Maybe somebody can help me. But the 15 commitments to highly effective people. No, the 15 commitments to conscious leadership. Excuse me. Now, there was nothing really new in that book. That book was written, and they took from Michael Beckwith, and they took from Stephen Covey, and from a number of other people. But it was put together brilliantly, and there is one thing I want to make reference to from that book in a minute. And then there was the book by Deepashish Chatterjee. It was called Conscious Conscious Leadership, I believe. I'm not certain. And so the different elements of these different books, and there was others, but these are the ones that have really impacted me. All of those books supported me in supporting others. Leadership is about supporting others. Leadership, conscious leadership, is about being the presence of love while leading, in my opinion. You might be thinking, oh, I don't have to love the employees, they work for me. And yet I have found that when you care enough about somebody, they will stand by you and they will support you in your ideas like nothing before. And just noticing the time. I didn't take time, and I want to. I want to thank the people that have been responding to my call to support this radio station. There have been some individuals who have stepped up and said, yes, I want this radio station to be there. I want to make sure that I can continue to get the inspiration. So, Lori, I want to say a special thank you to you, because I know just recently that you decided to do that. And but I know there are others, and so I want to thank you. But I also want to say that this organization, as I say every week, can you hear that truck in the background? Is worthy, absolutely worthy of your giving. Please give. Please give to this organization. Yep, and there is this. There is the ribbon along the bottom. New Thought Media Network. Newthoughtmedia.org. And I'm gonna see if I can get rid of. I'm worried about the trucks in the background. So New Thought Media, give something, because if a lot of us, talk about leadership. Think about this. If everybody who watched just this show and any of the shows ever gave a little bit monthly, if everybody started doing a little bit, now we're crowdsourcing the support of this network that gives us so much. And the best way you know how valuable is it is to ask yourself, what if it wasn't there, what would I do? Because for many of you, and I've spoken to many of you, you watch many of these different shows, and there's so many new shows coming on. And Reverend Robert gave us a great sent us a video the day telling us all the changes and the new shows that are coming on. And you got people like Camille Conti, who has, I think 30 years in the radio business, who's really going to be supporting this. So what a fabulous thing. So please take time to donate to this organization. So whether it's profit or nonprofit, and whether you think of yourself as a leader or not, it's very likely that you are a leader. Now, a leader has to feel good about themselves. You actually can't lead from a place of self criticism. You can try, but it won't work well and it won't work for long. To have the impact that you want to have, there must you have to take care of the vessel first through which the leadership is coming. So in order to get to the place that you want to get, and I think that actually I don't I can't say that with assumption, but if you're listening to this show, you are an individual who is already in new thought. Whether you are a leader at your job, at your church, or whether it is in your family, I'm asking you to recognize that you and I don't walk the path of other people. We don't walk the path of other people. We don't. We are unique and different and beautiful, and the way we language things and our expectations and our belief in ourselves and in humanity, all of that makes us more powerful people. And it's a time that we take our place. It's time that you take your place. The quickest way to recognize how much you have going for you is to go out in a crowd of people that you don't know at all and listen. Listen to the conversations. Listen to some of the bitterness. Listen to the gossip. Listen to the complaining. Listen to the arrogance. Listen to the pessimism and evidence of racism and all these things that are out there. And you will notice them more, especially when you recognize no, as you notice them more, you will recognize who you are and what you have to give and bring. Now, here's the thing. Not everybody's going to want what you have to give. They're not. They're not going to want it. They are not going to be interested. They're not going to be maybe even aware. So when someone's not aware, we're not there to force anybody through the door. We are there to not find fault, then. We are there to not judge. When you and I remember not to judge, we are practicing do no harm. Does that make sense? When you practice do no harm, you are already doing something for humanity and for that person. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I'm just catching up and seeing who's here today. In the book, The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, they have this brilliant model. So if you are in leadership, I encourage you to pay attention to this. In that book, they do this model where when they go into companies and corporations, they take a whiteboard or something and they draw a line across the middle of the page or the middle of the board. And they talk about the consciousness above the line and below the line. And that's just to create the the visual so you could understand. So you could understand what you actually bring to the table. Below the line is where somebody might try to be in leadership by being critical, by being judgmental, by forcing somebody, by blaming, by punishing. Above the line, we lead from consciousness, we lead from kindness, we lead by coaching, we lead by saying to someone, how can I support you in doing a better job? How can I support you? When it's above the line, we're honest, we're authentic, we don't blame. So you get to have this differential about how you decide to be in leadership. And below the line has a particular feeling. The feeling of below the line will have this feeling of very strong rigidity. It will have a feeling of things you trying to control or recognizing that you're being controlled. Above the line will have a sense of flow and ease. I want to keep this tight because this is a subject that could go on for literally weeks of a conversation and weeks of training. Think of it this way. Think of life, or let's stay pertinent to what we're talking about. Either you're a profit business, you're a nonprofit business, whoever you volunteer for. Think of it as a blank canvas, a beautiful, brand new blank canvas. And every word you speak creates the painting on that canvas. Now, this is a general life thing anyway. When we speak critically, we are creating that work of art. When we speak lovingly, we are creating that work of art. And just like a painting that has thousands of little brushstrokes to create it, it is from every word that we speak and every action and the small micro actions that we take and the small micro judgments. So whether you are in leadership as your job and your profession, or simply as a human, I am asking you to be more conscious, to practice kindness, to practice fairness, to pay attention to what comes out of your mouth. And one of the theme that I've been on for a number of years, pay attention to your judgments and your micro judgments. Stop thinking that because you think it, it's right. It's not necessarily right, or it's only right for you, very likely. But the moment you take those judgments and you try to impose them on another, you are trying to use your will over another. So the analogy I want to use, and this is an easy one for me because I'm about to have my third grandchild. When you're around a brand new baby, a brand new, precious, yummy baby, you would never think of looking at that baby and using anything other than words of love, words of kindness, words of encouragement. Matter of fact, you're probably so syrupy, and how we ooze over a brand new baby. So here's the question. When did that unconditional love stop being important? When did you stop deserving to receive that kind of unconditional love? When did the people around you stop deserving to receive that unconditional love. Okay, let me tie up everything I'm saying. I'm speaking about conscious leadership, but not just for business owners or nonprofit leaders. I'm talking about conscious leadership as a human. And if you've only tripped on this show and you happen to stay in here, and if you do not attend a New Thought community of any kind, maybe you're not quite sure what I'm talking about. But my guess is that if you're in here and you've continued to listen, some part of you knows. You and I have impact over every single human we engage. Every single human. And so what I'm asking you to do is to practice kindness, is to practice non-gossip, is to practice non-judgment, is to recognize the wholeness of every human that you engage. In the book Conscious Leadership by Deepashish Chatterjee, that's where I learned the term Tatwamasi, and it means I am that thou art. I think it's Ubuntu, where that means I am because you are. So beautiful. Of course, there's the classic Namaste. The presence of me, the presence that lives within me, recognizes the presence within you. And if we could cease measuring and having a sense of superiority or inferiority, and instead looking at the individuals in the eyes of other individuals as equal and inclusive and fully deserving all the time, you're going to speak differently to those people. You're going to speak differently to yourself, and you will engage the world differently. We need more people who are willing to consistently engage the world in a conscious, loving, kind way. A conscious, loving, kind way. The CEO of a corporation or a store owner that has employees, it doesn't matter. What matters is how we show up, because you and I have impact. Let us have conscious impact. Let us do it with love. So I hope that for some of you, that this sparks a little something and has you question, how am I showing up? How am I being in the world? How am I as an employer? And to do so every day, checking in, don't go back to sleep. Don't go to sleep. And what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to do a spiritual mind treatment for this purpose. And I'm going to do it open-eyed. I'm going to look you straight in the eye. There is a power, a presence, a love. It is grand, it is glorious, and it is sacred. This sacred one is everywhere present all the time, and it shows up in, through, and as each of us. And as I speak this word right now, I do so not as myself, Michelle, but the I am of me. And I declare on behalf of every single individual who is watching that there is within a divine call to be a conscious leader, to act from kindness, to act from love, to be the presence of love at all moments every day. I declare that we hear the call to be more, that we hear the call to be whole. And as that call as we hear that call, we answer the call And we do so with love. We do so consciously. Let us answer the call to be more. So I believe in the presence of God within each and every one listening now or later, and with bountiful gratitude for God, for Spirit, for love, for this radio show, I surrender this word to love, to law, and to the awe of life. And so it is. This is Rev Jersey Girl saying to you, be well, be happy, be brilliant. I'll see you next week, unless my daughter-in-law goes into labor and I have my grandkids. Then we'll figure something else out. Be happy. Talk to you soon. Bye. Happy Thursday.